are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for all right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth, and it's great to have you guys here on this Thursday, August 1st. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. That is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about today. So we're going to start off the show. We are going to talk about the Hall of Fame game tonight between the Houston Texans and the Chicago Bears. In the second part of the show, I'll take a look at the updated list of the highest paid wide receivers in the NFL. Now with DJ Moore getting his new contract, similar to what I did with the quarterbacks last week or this week, whenever I did it. In the third part of the show, I'll continue my running back rankings. Today we will be covering the AFC North. In the fourth part of the show, we'll talk more about Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson getting into it on the sidelines in practice, and I'll talk about what they had to say on it. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about Arthur Blank of the Atlanta Falcons, talking about the Falcons quarterback position, talking about Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix Jr. So that's the rundown for the show today. Let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the Hall of Fame game. So we have a game tonight. We finally made it. It's been a long off season. I've been waiting for this moment, but we finally have a game that we could talk about. Now, there's not going to be really any starters playing in this game, which, we all know this. I mean, because this game is played every year, we kind of figured that. But there were some rumblings that, hey, maybe Caleb Williams can make an appearance in this game, give you some, more of an incentive to watch the game. But that was not the case here. Caleb Williams is not going to play. We are going to have Tyson Bagent starting for the Bears tonight. And I'm assuming Davis Mills, Case Keenum, one of them is going to start for the Texans. Now, these two teams do play each other during the regular season, Week 2, Sunday Night Football. So I'm really looking forward to that. This is kind of a dress rehearsal, can't talk today, for that game. So, but, it's football, and, with the Yankees being off tonight, I'm going to watch it, even though it's probably not going to be the most exciting game. But, again, like I said, it's football, and I'm just so happy that it's back. So it's going to be, the game starts tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be on ESPN, ABC, and ESPN Deportes. It's going to be taking place at the Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio. And, this is the start of the NFL preseason. And, you got guys like Andre Johnson for the Texans being inducted into the Hall of Fame, as well as Devin Hester and Steve McMichael. So those are the Texans and Bears representatives for this game tonight. So, just bringing that up as well. But, yes, a couple things to keep an eye on tonight. One is, looking at the receiver depth behind the top three receivers for the Texans. You got John Mechie III, who's looking to make an impact. Xavier Hutchinson, Ben Skoranek, who used to be on the Rams. You got Noah Brown, and as well as Robert Woods. Those are guys that are looking to, become those or be those 4, 5, 6, get those 4, 5, 6 spots for the Texans, because we know what the top three are. Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Nico Collins. But behind that, who's going to be the other few receivers that will make the team. Another thing, too, is seeing Shane Waldron's offensive scheme for the Bears, taking over for Luke Getsky, who was the offensive coordinator for the Bears. He has an emphasis of balancing run and pass attempts. So take that as how you will. I know in one of our production meetings, Tommy, the college football host here on the GSMC Sports Network, I remember him saying that he was a big fan of Shane Waldron. So, we'll see. And the Bears have a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. I loved what they've done I love what both teams have done this offseason. So, I expect both these teams. Well, the Texans more so. I expect them to be a playoff team this year. The Bears, they're going to be in the mix. I see them as a wild card team. But that's something to keep an eye on. Now with Caleb Williams, you got Keenan Allen in there, DeAndre Swift. There's a lot of Roma Dunze. There's new components to this offense. And with what the Bears already had with DJ Moore, who just got paid, and Cole Kmet, I mean, we'll see what this offense is going to look like. Well, we'll see it a little bit tonight. Obviously, not the full arsenal is not going to be out there, but we'll at least see how this offense is run. I expect we're going to see, Khalil Herbert. Maybe I think we'll see Khalil Herbert, right? We'll see Khalil Herbert. We'll see Roshan. I know we'll see Roshan Johnson probably, yeah. So that's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, rookie and position battles across the board. That's just something to keep an eye on. Who's going to make an impact tonight in this game. And then, of course, actually, the other thing, too, is the new kickoff rules. How is that going to look? Because tomorrow we'll definitely talk about it when I recap the game and talk about who stood out from the game. But that also is something to keep an eye on as well. And I just realized that I was going to include a graphic on the at this point in the show. So we're almost halfway through the segment. But yeah, I wanted to include the team logos. I know I just realized that. I'm like, wait, wasn't I was going to include something here while I was talking. But yeah, so now you got the two teams up here. But yeah, so those are some of the things to keep an eye on. But yeah, these two teams, last year the Texans exceeded expectations. They went 10-7. They won the AFC South. They did win a playoff game against the Browns, and then they lost to the Ravens in the divisional round. The Bears, they ended up finishing 7-10 on the season last year. But they did play better towards the end of the season. And now it's going to be different because you got Caleb Williams instead of Justin Fields. But I think this team is going to be in the mix. I really do believe that, even though there are people that are going to say, the Bears are still going to be the Bears and, they're not going to do good. I don't know. I think from last year, with the defense playing well and with all the weapons they have on offense, I really do think that the Bears can have a good season. I think I said 9-10 wins for them. And I think that's good enough to get you a wild card spot. I really do believe that. But I wanted to take a look at some of the betting odds, or a couple things. So the Bears right now are 1.5. They're plus 1.5. So they're the underdog in this game. Texans right now are favored. It actually started out with the Texans being the underdog. They opened up at plus 2. This is at least what I'm looking at on CBS. But now, since then, they're now minus 1.5. And they went from, both teams were minus 110, the money line. But now the Texans are minus 120 and the Bears are plus 100. So take that however you want. And then the public bet right now, at least when it comes to the spread, most people are taking the Bears 55% to 45% for the Texans. And then the over-under, so right now, currently, it's 31. So, and most people are taking the over. But yeah, Tyson Bagent's going to get the start tonight. Again, played a couple of games for the Bears last year, won a couple of games. So, right now, I guess, he's in line to be the backup quarterback. to Caleb Williams. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm just excited that football's back in any capacity. I know, again, preseason is not the most exciting of it all, but it's football, and we'll take it. It's going to give us more stuff to talk about. And then, of course, everybody's going to be playing next week. So, we'll see some of the rookies playing. The first round picks, I'm assuming, we'll see some of them playing. I don't expect Rome Odunze to play in this game. He's not going to be playing, but look, football's back. That's just the bottom line. Football is back, and we're going to take whatever we can get. And, the season is a little over a month away. So, but, hey, we got a game tonight. Looking forward to it. Again, it's on ESPN, because usually it's on NBC, but now this year it's on ESPN. I don't remember. Was it on ESPN? Was it on NBC last year? I think it was. But, looking forward to it. Just to at least see some football. Like I said, the Yankees for me aren't on tonight, so this is where my attention is going to be. My attention would still be on this, but because it's the Hall of Fame game, there's, it's the starters aren't playing. We're gonna see the real thing though during the regular season, so I will be locked in for that when that time comes. But let me know what you guys think about the game tonight. Who are you looking for tonight to make an impact in this game? Of the backups that are going to be playing, who do you think is going to stand out tonight? Like I said, we'll recap the game tomorrow, and we'll talk about who stood out and things like that. But I'm not going to make a prediction for this game just because it's a preseason game. But I'm excited. I'm excited to watch some football tonight. It should be good. So we are going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we will talk about. We'll look at the updated list of the highest paid receivers now with DJ Moore getting his new contract. I just wanted to go over that and kind of recap, the contracts that were given out to receivers this offseason. So that is what we are going to do when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're just going to take a look at the updated list of the highest paid wide receivers in the NFL. Just taking a look at the new contracts that were given out this offseason, where everything kind of stands, especially now with DJ Moore recently getting his contract. Now, obviously, he's not the highest paid receiver in the league because of that, but he's up there. So this is right now the top 9. We'll try to scroll through the list here. But yeah, so Justin Jefferson, of course, is at the top. He signed his contract for 4 years, $140 million. Devontae Adams is still in the middle of his contract. That was for $140 million. He's making $28 million a year. Justin Jefferson making $35, which is the most of any wide receiver. Which is what's interesting is Amari Cooper being on this list. Because, Amari Cooper, I think, in terms of, the top wide receivers, top 10, he should be outside the top 10. Now, this is his, right now his current deal. And, he's making, $20 million a year. Because, if you look at the other receivers, they're all making more money than him per year. But, right now he's up there, because this is in terms of the value of the whole contract. So that's why he's up in the top 10. So that's just one thing to make note of, which, you guys probably know that, but I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, it's interesting how Amari Cooper is up there because now Amari Cooper, now that's no knock on Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper is still a good receiver, but he should be lower on the list here. But again, this is just on contracts. But yeah, DJ Moore right now, he's making, his contract is bigger than AJ Brown's, Jaylen Waddle. He's making now AJ Brown's making $32 million a year, so he's making more per year than DJ Moore is. But yeah, DJ Moore's got a bigger contract. So I think AJ Brown's a better receiver than DJ Moore. But yeah, that's one thing to look at. Tyreek Hill's looking for a new deal. We know that. So we'll see if he eventually gets that. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown that got his new deal. $30 million a year. He's making a little bit more than Tyreek Hill at the moment. Tyreek Hill's deal ends in 2026. But yeah, so you got Justin Jefferson, you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Moore, A.J. Brown, Calvin Ridley's contract with the Titans. You have Jaylen Waddle there. I'm going to see if I could try to scroll through this without messing anything up. But then you got Keenan Allen. His deal is going to expire after this year, making about $20 million, or a little over $20 million. Cooper Kupp, his deal is over by 2026. We also got Devontae Smith, who got his new deal. That expires after 2028. He's making $25 million a year. Nico Collins, his 3-year deal, $24 million. He was another receiver that got paid this offseason. And listen, and Christian Kirk, I talked about it with my friend, when we did our podcast together, about that deal and how, we just didn't think Christian Kirk deserved that kind of money. Now look at what other receivers have gotten since then, and he's making, like I said, $18 million a year. So that doesn't look as bad of a contract now with the updated list. Michael Pittman, another guy that got a new deal this offseason. He's making $23 million, only a $70 million contract. So that was a good deal for the Colts. Also, I never talked about it, but Courtland Sutton restructuring his deal. He's making $15 million this year. And this deal ends after 2025. But yeah, they restructured it. I wonder if he's going to end up on another team. But I wanted to bring that up because I know he got that. I didn't really discuss it that much. But looking at this list though, a lot of receivers got paid this offseason. And we're still waiting on when CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, when they're going to get their new deals. I know I sound like a broken record at this point with those with their contract negotiations, but at some point they're going to get it. And when CeeDee Lamb does get his contract, he's going to be somewhere, where he's going to be towards the top, where Jefferson, Devontae Adams, and Amon-Ra St. Brown are. I have no doubts about that. He's coming off of his best year. He should get paid close to top dollar. Because because I think I brought it up earlier, just that I don't think he deserves as much money as Justin Jefferson. But that's because of how I feel about Justin Jefferson, the player, over CeeDee Lamb. I think Justin Jefferson is slightly a better player, but CeeDee Lamb is, a top 3 receiver, especially after last year. And he had a better year than Jefferson. Now, Jefferson still had over 1,000 yards, but and give him credit, he still had over 1,000 yards with the issues at quarterback and also the fact that he was hurt. But CeeDee Lamb, posting over 1,700 yards receiving. I mean, he was an absolute stud last year. He deserves to get paid top dollar. Could he reset the wide receiver market? I mean, we'll see. I don't know if the Cowboys want to give him that much money because they got some other things that they got to figure out, particularly with Dak Prescott. So it's going to be interesting, how that all plays out. But yeah, a lot of receivers got paid this offseason. Like I said, you have both Eagles receivers. Jaylen Waddle got a new deal. Calvin Ridley, as a free agent, got a new deal. Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Moore recently. I mean, a lot of receivers got paid. Receivers got paid, quarterbacks got paid, running backs got paid. There's a lot of guys, a lot of positions got paid this offseason. And then looking at some of the, so Devontae Adams' deal is going to end in a couple years. Tyreek Hill, already is desiring a new deal. You got Amari Cooper. Where is Amari Cooper going to end up if he's not with the Browns? That's something I'm interested in, where he could end up. Because I still think he could be a productive receiver for you. But I think, probably, I think his best days are probably behind him. I think he's still got productive years left, but, if he's your number one receiver, and he's got an injury history that you got to worry about, but, I think Amari Cooper's going to have no problem finding a new home. But, yeah, it's crazy how fast his deal went. Signed in back in 2020, and, that deal's on its last year already. So he might be on the market. Maybe the Browns bring him back, depending on what kind of season he has. But he could be somebody that's on the move next year. All these receivers, I expect them to have really good seasons. These are, the top receivers in the NFL right here. You got Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill. Now, some of these guys, the top two up here, Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams, they got a little bit of, competition going with their quarterbacks. We don't know who's going to Sam Darnold, I think, is going to start week 1 for the Vikings. But, at some point, J.J. McCarthy is going to take over, you would imagine. And then for the Raiders, you got Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. Who's going to start between those guys? And you have people saying that Aiden O'Connell, it's his job to lose just because he's been there already. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I'm curious to see how Calvin Ridley does with the Titans. The Titans offense, how is that going to be with him, with DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd? How is that offense going to work out? With those pass catchers. Actually, for the and another receiver too, is Keenan Allen. What are the Bears going to do with him? Depending on what kind of season he has, are they going to bring him back, or is this kind of one and done thing? Because you do have Rome Odunze, so that's another receiving core that I'm excited for, which we talked about a little bit before in the last segment. So you got DJ Moore on his new deal, Keenan Allen. Those are the top two receivers. We'll see how Rome Odunze is, but all indications are he's going to be a stud. Could, become that number 1 receiver at some point. But right now you got DJ Moore and Keenan Allen ahead of him on the depth chart. But there's really no contract on here where I'm like, that player does not deserve that kind of money. You look at Amari Cooper's contract, and it's it definitely, because, I mean, in terms of the total contract, he's making, like I said, more than A.J. Brown. But yeah, I mean, he was only making $20 million, a year. But you see how it changes. You see how the receiver market has changed from when Amari Cooper signed his new deal to what everybody else has. I mean, everybody's making, close to $30 million or over $30 million. I mean, Devontae Adams, he's making $28 million a year. I mean, I think he should be making more than that, with the kind of receiver he is. Now, obviously, when he went to the Raiders, he was supposed to be playing with Derek Carr, but, things changed, and now he's playing with Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew. But, if he was still playing with Rodgers, he still puts up good numbers, but, I wish his quarterback situation was better. I wish, the Raiders still had Derek Carr, honestly, but that's not what happened. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think about the updated list of the highest paid receivers in the league. What stands out? DJ Moore now is in that top 5. And listen, we'll see what happens with CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk when they eventually get paid. So before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we will talk about the AFC North. We will rank the running backs in that division when we come back from our next break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to now rank the running backs in the AFC North. So let's get right into that. And listen, I have come prepared with graphics today. All graphics mostly throughout the show. So, you know how I feel about the AFC North. It is the toughest division in the NFL. Now, with this ranking, I mean, it was kind of tough, and I'll explain why as I go through it. But yeah, I mean, I think pretty much all of the running backs within this division. I think pretty much every team is going to run the football well, except for maybe one of the teams, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals. But that's more so because I just think they're going to be a team that's going to throw the ball more so than some of the other teams. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. But yeah, so I got their new starting running back at 4, and that's Zack Moss. Now, Zack Moss is coming off of a good year with the Colts. He filled in nicely for Jonathan Taylor when Jonathan Taylor missed the beginning of the season. But I don't really know what to expect, with him now on the Bengals. And with the Bengals and Joe Burrow hopefully being healthy, I mean, the Bengals are going to be throwing the ball a lot. Last year for Zack Moss, though, I just wanted to bring up, like I said, had a good year. 794 rushing yards on 183 carries, 5 touchdowns, so all career highs for him. And you wonder, if Jonathan Taylor doesn't play the whole year, probably gets over 1,000 yards, or close to it. But, you got him, and you got Chase Brown as well, who was making plays for them towards the end of the year. He was their one of their rookies last year, so he's going into his second year. But, yeah, I don't really know what to expect from Zack Moss with the Bengals. Now, again, had a productive year. I think, could that translate with the Bengals? Sure. I mean, the Bengals have a good offense, and, they're going to really need a good running game to, balance this passing attack. I mean, especially with Joe Burrow working, now that he's back from injury, I mean, you don't want to, you want him to ease him back into it, not have him throw the ball a ton. I mean, he's going to, but you guys know what I mean. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Bengals running game is probably going to be, in my opinion, the worst out of the teams in the division. And that's not a knock on Zack Moss. It's just, I think the Bengals are going to be a team that's, they're going to throw the football, to their playmakers, to Jamar Chase, to T. Higgins. That's where the offense is going to, thrive, is through the passing game. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I also would put, that is the reason why I put the Bengals running game at 4. Also, again, I just don't know. Is Zack Moss going to repeat what he did last year with the Colts? It's a new team now. I mean, I think he can, but we'll have to see. But yeah, I got the Bengals running game at 4 with Zack Moss. At 3, I got the Browns with Nick Chubb. And now for me, if Nick Chubb is healthy and, last year doesn't happen, I mean, Nick Chubb's probably either at 2 or 1. But because of the uncertainty with him working his way back, and who knows if he's going to play in week 1. I mean, you got Deontay Foreman and Jerome Ford, who did a nice job last year filling in, and you also have Nyheim Hines as well. I mean, we don't know if Nick Chubb is going to be ready to start the season. And on top of that, when he does come back, I mean, he's not going to get a heavy workload. They're really going to ease Nick Chubb back into it. And like I said, if Nick Chubb is healthy, I mean, I put him either at 2 or 1. But because I'm not, there's some uncertainty with whether or not he's healthier or not, probably going to just leave him at 3 for the time being. I think this Browns running game, the Browns are going to run the football a lot, I feel. Because also they have a quarterback that's working his way back from injury too, in Deshaun Watson. Now, the Browns are expecting big things out of Deshaun Watson, and they're hoping that this year, he turns back the clock and he plays up to the contract that they gave him, because right now that contract looks terrible because of, all the time that he's missed, especially with being hurt. They are expecting big things out of Deshaun Watson. Now, if you get a healthy Deshaun Watson and you ease Nick Chubb back in and he's healthy, combined with the good defense that the Browns have, I mean, this team is going to be a problem. But now I have more confidence in, believe it or not, I have more confidence in Nick Chubb than I do with Deshaun Watson. Like, I think Nick Chubb will overcome this injury, and he's going to, when he eventually, is back to full strength, he's going to play well. But Deshaun Watson, it's since he's gotten to the Browns, I mean, it hasn't been great. So, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, I think Nick Chubb, when he gets back to 100%, we're not going to see the Nick Chubb, before the injury, but we're going to see some version of it, and he's going to be a big part of what the Browns do this season. I think on paper they got a solid offense, and you hope the offensive line stays healthy. That was another part of the team that got ravaged by injury. So if that stays healthy, that only helps Nick Chubb. But yeah, I'm going to put him at 3. So moving on now to number 2, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. The combination of Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. Towards the end of the year, I mean, they were one of the main reasons why the Steelers made the playoffs. The running game down the stretch for the Steelers was solid. And Najee Harris last year, 255 carries, 1,035 rushing yards, and 8 touchdowns. Jaylen Warren started playing more of a, as I dropped my phone, looking at the stats, Jaylen Warren started playing more of a role in the offense as well. Had some big runs during the year for the Steelers, and he finished with 149 carries for 784 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. And the Steelers, they put an emphasis on the offensive line in the draft, which you would imagine that's going to help the running game out. And, we'll see how it is, especially now with the new quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. We'll see, how that plays out, because I know we've talked about that recently, the quarterback competition between those two. But, yeah, I just think right now I would put them at 2. Like I said, if Nick Chubb, if last year doesn't happen, the injury, I'd probably put him at 2. But, because of how the Steelers played and combined with the Chubb injury, going into this year, I got them at 2. Najee Harris, this could be his last year with the Steelers. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. Jaylen Warren kind of, he started playing more into Najee, cutting into Najee's playing time. And rightfully so. I mean, he was playing well last year. Najee, towards the end of the year, had some good games. So, yeah, I think these two as a duo, I think they're solid. So, I expect that to continue. Like I said, Steelers put an emphasis on the offensive line, and I think, look, however you want to look at the Steelers quarterback position, compared to what it was last year, was an upgrade. So, and I think when you look at the Steelers passing game, yeah, I mean, you got George Pickens, you got Pat Freiermuth. I mean, Roman Wilson got hurt, and you hope he, is fine. I mean, it was just an ankle sprain, but, still going to be week to week, like I said yesterday. But, yeah, I mean, the passing game, I have my concerns there, because there's just a lack of depth at the receiver position, and we got to see, who steps up. But, yeah, I think the Steelers are going to run the football with these two guys, and I think they're going to find a lot of success in that this year. And that's going to be one of the reasons why the Steelers are going to be a competitive team this year, is because of that running game. And they can control the game with that. So I got them at 2, and then at 1, I got the king, Derrick Henry. I think he landed in probably the best spot, going from the Titans to the Ravens. The Ravens are a team that are gonna run the football, not just with him, but also with their quarterback, Lamar Jackson. I mean, I really loved this move for the Ravens. Now, Derrick Henry is, 30, and, has took a lot of punishment over the course of his career just because of how big he is. And you wonder, going into the season, how is he gonna be? And I think most of us think he's going to do well. But, there's some concerns, I would say, just because of, him getting up there in age. But I think with him ending up on the Ravens, this was probably the best spot for him. And, I feel like the Ravens are going to do a good job at, controlling his workload, not giving him a ton like he did in Tennessee. I don't know why I almost said like Kansas City or something. In Tennessee, I don't think he's going to get that kind of a workload. But, he's going to have his share of big games this year. And we're going to see him right off the bat when the Ravens do play Kansas City in Arrowhead, which I'm really looking forward to that matchup. We're almost there. But, yeah, I got him at 1. I think he's going to do a really good job running the football this year. And they're going to try to mix in some of their other running backs. And like I said, Lamar Jackson's going to run the football. So that's going to take some of the workload off of Derrick Henry, which I think is good. And, if the Ravens make the playoffs, well, I think they will make the playoffs. When the Ravens make the playoffs, they're going to have to rely on him at times. You wonder if they would have had him last year in the championship game, would they have run the ball more than they actually did? Because they really did not run the ball at all in the AFC championship game. And the game was never really out of reach. And people think the Ravens panicked because they were like, oh, man, we got to keep up with the Chiefs. And the defense kept it close. If they would have just stuck to their original game plan and just, ran the football, I mean, who knows? Who knows what happens? But, yeah, I think Derrick Henry could be a difference maker on this team. I do. But even though, like I said, he's in his 30s now. Well, he is 30. I think he still will have a solid year. So to kind of go through it again, the list: Zack Moss of the Bengals at 4, Nick Chubb of the Browns at 3, the combination of Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren at 2, and Derrick Henry at 1. And I hope Nick Chubb has a great year when he comes back. I would say he is one of my favorite players in the NFL. That injury last year was just horrific. And, to see against the Steelers last year, and you just hope that, he comes back and he plays well. I think we all do. We'll see how that goes. But, let me know what you guys think about these rankings. How would you rank the running backs in the AFC North? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our next break now, and then when we come back, we'll talk more about the exchange between Garrett Wilson, too many Wilsons, Roman Wilson, Russell Wilson, Garrett Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers. We'll get into that when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the fourth part of the show, we are going to talk more about the exchange between Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson, because I know that's been making headlines. I just wanted to talk about what they had to say regarding those arguments that they were having on the sidelines, because, again, I know that's been making news lately, so I just want to switch things up. I do have, Garrett Wilson's stats from last year up, so I just wanted to pull them up, and there they are. These are his stats from last year with, the combination of Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle and Trevor Siemian. Still at over 1,000 yards with that carousel at quarterbacks the Jets had. You'd like to see the touchdowns up, and I think if Rodgers does play a full year, he's definitely going to have more than 3 touchdowns. But yeah, I just wanted to get into what Rodgers and Garrett Wilson had to say. So Rodgers said, "I think there's often appearance versus reality in life and on the football field, and what it appears to be might not always be what the reality actually is. As far as whether or not we're upset with each other, we're just passionately talking about the details of a situation that might not have to do with either of us. So G and I have got a great relationship. We spend time together off the field. On the field, there's a way of doing things that we both agree on, and when it doesn't look exactly how we want it to, sometimes there's some sad conversations that happen. I love those conversations. It's about details. It's about winning. It's about seeing what he sees. He's got to get on my page, but I've got to get on his page too, because he's got a whole book that I need to understand fully of skill set and ability and feel and rhythm and all the different things that he does out there. So those are good conversations. They might appear to be more heated than they are, but there's usually a smile on our face afterwards, which there was, because you did see that they were laughing at a certain point, at least one of us. And Garrett Wilson said he's vocalizing that he was mad. I know when we're getting our butts kicked, I'm mad. I'm trying to say like the children's version of what he's saying, because I don't want to. Not that these words are really bad to say, but I'm just trying to say it. Trying to cut them out. I might not vocalize that way to the guys, but I'm mad too, so it's kind of a mutual feeling. It's like, I'm glad he said something. It's not personal. I don't think anyone in this building takes it that way. It's like, all right, this is our leader right here. Obviously, he's not happy with what we're doing, so it can be a reminder for some of the guys. And then Wilson also said that happened a little last year leading up to the season, so we got into it. You got to feel the practices without it once he was injured, and maybe how the practice didn't feel as detailed because of that. It's people like that demand greatness in your details and your mindset, and you're watching film and you could feel it when it's not there, when it's absent. I think we all appreciate it, but we all know it's go time when that comes out. Honestly, we're feeling it too. It's just certain guys have the ability to verbalize it in the way. He's one of those. Yeah, I mean, listen, I watching it, yeah, you saw that they looked like they were arguing, but I did see, Rodgers was smiling afterwards. I mean, it happens. It happens. Just like when you see, like I saw there was a fight that broke out in camp with the Steelers. It happens. Like, shouldn't be something like that we should be like, Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson are getting into it. That's not good. This is really gonna hurt them once the season starts. Look, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, they're gonna get on the same page. They are. They're gonna work things out. And I hope they do, because you know what, Garrett Wilson, after what the Jets went through last year with the quarterbacks, I mean, you want to see what this guy could really do with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. Now, again, he's not getting the Aaron Rodgers that, won back-to-back MVPs and, back in 2014 won an MVP. He's not getting that Aaron Rodgers, but he's getting a version of Aaron Rodgers that is the best quarterback that he will ever play with. Now, we did see a little bit of what they could do together, because in that preseason game against the Giants last year, Garrett Wilson did score a touchdown that was thrown by Aaron Rodgers. So we could talk about, well, he only played in 4 snaps last year. Well, he did also play in the preseason game against the Giants. Let's not forget that. And he did throw a touchdown to Garrett Wilson. And we want to see more of that this year. We really do. Because when Aaron Rodgers is healthy, whether you like him or not, him being healthy is good for the sport. It is. And, you look at Garrett Wilson's numbers last year, like I said, 3 touchdowns last year. He did have over 1,000 yards. I mean, I think even with what the Jets went through and getting over 1,000 yards, I mean, that is impressive, I would say. Because, some of those quarterbacks, might not deserve to really be starting games for your team, but they were starting for the Jets. So, and I think with Aaron Rodgers, those numbers are going to go up. And, you hope that Mike Williams is healthy. We'll see how the rookie Corley is. But, I mean, if Mike Williams is healthy and Corley's a good player, that, makes this Jets offense better. Because Mike Williams has had big games over the course of his career, but, he's working his way back from an ACL tear. So we'll see how he is. With the Jets, there are some ifs. I will admit that. If Mike Williams is healthy, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, if the offensive line stays healthy, there's a lot of ifs, but it's particularly with the offensive side of the ball, because we know the defense is going to be good, but it's the offense that is really going to dictate how the Jets are. The offensive line, like I said yesterday, that's going to dictate how the Jets are going to be this season, in my opinion. But in terms of what's these arguments that Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers are having, it's not a big deal. They don't think it's a big deal, and we still got their first game is on September 9th. They got plenty of time to iron this offense out, and they'll be ready to go when the season starts. They'll be ready to go. Now, it's against the 49ers, which I don't like them opening up against the 49ers in that pass rush on Monday night. Fans of the Jets are not very happy with that. They think the NFL has it out for them. But, just imagine Aaron Rodgers goes in there, goes up against a team that passed on him. First game back off the Achilles injury. And he goes out there and he lights it up. That would be unbelievable. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Jets are going to struggle in that game. I don't think they're going to get, blown out. I think they'll play a competitive game, but I think there's going to be some struggles, and they might lose a close game, and you go from there. But the Jets have a soft schedule to start the year. You got the Patriots, the Titans on the schedule, the Broncos are on the schedule. I mean, they got some winnable games. So, yeah, you got the 49ers out of the gate. If you can get past that game unscathed, nothing major happens, and you go from there, then you're in good shape. And I think the Jets, they got, like I said, they got some winnable games on their schedule. Yeah, I just want to see Aaron Rodgers play a full year. I just want to see what he could do for the Jets, because we didn't get to see that. And, got Garrett Wilson's stats here. If he plays the full year, Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson's going to have a monster year. He should. And, if Aaron Rodgers is playing well, that also benefits Breece Hall as well, because, expect him to do well this year. Just got to get good protection. That's really what it comes down to. Just got to get good protection. And we'll see. I know I've been positive on the Jets. I did get a comment yesterday on the Rodgers segment I did. The comment was Rodgers isn't going to make it through the whole season. He said Rodgers will not make it through the season. Not a lot of people are confident that Rodgers is going to make it through the season. They think he's going to get hurt again. And I hope not. I really hope not. But it's also like people want it to happen. I think there's some people that do want it to happen. But I don't understand why. When the guy plays, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, he didn't play like that his last season in Green Bay. I get it. But I think it was more than just... It was more of a team thing, too. Like, I don't think it just had to do with, Aaron Rodgers lost a step. I think there were a lot of moving parts. He had new receivers that he had to work with. He had the injury. There was... I think it was more than just his level of play declined. Now, I'm not saying that his play didn't decline at all. I mean, yeah, he's 40 years old now. A couple years ago, yeah, he was... still in his 30s, but still, I mean, obviously he's not the same player he was back when, he was winning MVPs the first two times. He's a different player. But I don't want to sit here and say, yeah, the Packers were terrible because, it was just because he was bad. But, I mean, they did make a run towards the end of the year and almost made the playoffs. But it was because of the Lions, who had nothing to play for. They were like, nope, you're not making it, man. You're not making it. You're going home. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, about the arguments that Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers had on the sidelines or at practice. Do you think it's a big deal? Do you not think it's a big deal? I don't think it is. They're going to figure this out. They're going to iron things out before the season starts. But, again, you see it all the time across the league. Guys getting into it. It happens. But yeah, you got people that'll say, well, if he didn't go on that trip, that probably wouldn't be happening. You know what? Even if he didn't go on that trip, this would still be happening. It doesn't matter, in my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. We're going to take our final break of the show now. And then when we come back, the show has flown by. We will talk about what Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, had to say regarding the Falcons quarterback position. So that is what we'll get to when we come back from our final break of the show. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to talk about owner Arthur Blank, talking about the Falcons' quarterback position, just what he had to say on it. Because if you remember, you go back to the draft and you saw, the general manager of the Falcons talking to Arthur Blank, and it looked like Arthur Blank was like, "What are we doing? Why did we just do that?" But I guess that really wasn't the case. I mean, I guess, things are fine. But this is what he said recently. He said, "Thank heavens," now this is via the Athletic Journal Constitution. He said, "Thank heavens we don't always listen to the league. And thank heavens we don't always listen to the media. We don't always do what everybody else thinks we should be doing. Everyone else thinks we should be doing. We're actually very independent thinkers." He said, "Kirk Cousins is our franchise quarterback. Is our starting quarterback, and he seems to be doing great from a medical standpoint. His attitude, his leadership, culturally, personally, with our players, with the coaching staff, has been nothing short of outstanding, so we couldn't be happier with that situation. We've been through a situation post-Matt Ryan when we're seeing that movie when we didn't have a franchise quarterback. We didn't want to repeat that again. I mean, I certainly didn't. I'm super sensitive to all forms of succession planning. After 60-odd years of business, in any business, that's critical. At the key position, the quarterback position in the NFL, that's very important. So just listen to our coaching staff and our personnel department. They really made the decision. Michael was going to be available at number 8. They saw an extraordinary talent. I know age does creep up. I could speak myself personally on that a little bit. I know what that means. Kirk will be 36 at the start of the season. We hope and pray he's got 3 to 4 great years in front of him, maybe beyond that, who knows. But we also know that at some point, there will be a point that we'll need to transition. We want to make sure we do that smoothly. So we're doing our advanced planning and doing our advanced thinking. That's what fans expect us to do. Maybe not right at the moment. At the moment, they may have liked a different player, but at some point down the road, they'll want to know that we can have a smooth transition at that very critical position for the Falcons in the National Football League." So, again, I mean, that's what the front office has said too. It's, you want to be able to plan for the future, but also, plan for the present. And, I know when we talked about Kirk Cousins and, the media asked him, "Hey, if you knew prior to signing with the Falcons that they were going to take a quarterback, would you have signed with them?" And he said, "Oh, I don't deal with hypotheticals." Well, yeah, he probably would have went to a different team. He kind of got blindsided a little bit. And you had people saying, they felt bad for him, but you also had people saying, well, he got that big contract, so, you shouldn't really feel bad for him, which I get. I think it's just where the Falcons drafted Michael Penix. That's really, I think, where all of the outcry came from. Because you're bringing in Kirk Cousins now because you want to win now. But then with your first pick, you're drafting someone that isn't going to help Kirk Cousins. That's really where that all came from. Now, I understand why the Falcons made the pick. And you know what? Michael Penix Jr. probably wasn't going to be available the next time they would have picked. Somebody else would have taken him. Maybe the Raiders would have taken him. So the Falcons jumped on the opportunity. They're like, let's get our guy right here. Let's do it. Now, that pick could, make or break, the front office's jobs. Like, people could lose jobs depending on how this goes. Also depending on how Kirk Cousins plays. So, it definitely was a bold move. It was an interesting move. It was one of the more interesting moves of the entire draft because nobody really expected that. Everybody was expecting him to take, an edge rusher. But, that didn't happen. At least with their first pick. But yeah, Arthur Blank seems to be on board with what they did. And I guess, maybe he was heated about the pick. And maybe the front office explained, like, hey, listen, we want to get, we want to have our future planned as well. Because, Kirk Cousins, he's got maybe, a couple good years left if he does bounce back from his Achilles injury. So you want to be able to have your future in place. So then, like Arthur Blank says, you have that smooth transition to Michael Penix once Kirk Cousins' contract is up or whatever happens. Because Kirk Cousins, maybe his contract, he doesn't play out his entire contract and Michael Penix already takes over. Which would be bad. I mean, I think if you're the Falcons, you want Kirk Cousins to play out this entire contract, play really well, and then, Michael Penix takes over. I don't think it's going to be like that. I don't think it's going to be this smooth transition. I think there might be some bumps along the way. And I don't think it's going to be that smooth of a transition, because I think there's a possibility that, Michael Penix could take over when Kirk Cousins' contract isn't even up. So, I mean, ideally, that's what the Falcons are hoping for, that he plays out this 4-year contract and everything goes well, and, maybe they get a Super Bowl out of it, which I don't think they will, but, everything goes great, and then Michael Penix takes over. It's not going to happen. We don't live in a perfect world. It's not going to happen. But I think we all get what the Falcons were trying to do. It just might have not have been the way we all would have probably have done it. But what do we know? What do I know? I'm not a general manager. That job is hard. That job is very hard. Like, as a Yankee fan, fans of them constantly, bashing our GM, which, there it is deserved to an extent, but, and I understand where they're coming from, but would you be able to do the job? It's hard. You gotta have people, go out and scout players, and you got the draft, free agency. It's a lot. After watching Hard Knocks with the Giants, it's a stressful job. Why would you want that? But it's easy because you look at it like, oh, they should get this player, they should get this player, they should get this player. Yeah, well, then you gotta have backup plans. And what if those players that you like, they don't turn out to be good? Then you don't have a job. I mean, again, it depends, but like if you draft the wrong players constantly, you're not going to have a job for that long. So this Michael Penix pick, and signing Kirk Cousins, I mean, this is going to determine if this front office continues to have a job or jobs. I mean, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I expect the Falcons to be a good team this year. They got a lot of talent on offense, and, they're hoping that Kirk Cousins kind of unlocks some of that talent, from a Kyle Pitts, from Drake London. We see more from Bijan Robinson. And they added a couple of other receivers as well. Now, I do think it's a step below the Vikings offense. I mean, you're not going to have Justin Jefferson, who's the best receiver in the NFL. What's Drake London's ceiling? I think he could be a good player, but is he a Justin Jefferson type player? No, I don't think so. But I think he could be. He's got talent. Let's see how he does when you got Kirk Cousins now throwing him the football. Kyle Pitts, same thing. Now he plays the tight. Now they're lining him up as a receiver as well. Let's see how Kyle Pitts is for Kirk Cousins. These guys will benefit from Kirk Cousins being the quarterback. He's just got to be healthy. So, but they play in a weak division. So, they have a very good chance to win this division and make the playoffs. But I don't see this team going far in the playoffs. Because Kirk Cousins, puts up good regular season stats, but he gets to the postseason, he's won a playoff game, but doesn't really do much in the postseason. So, I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens, but it's just, where do the Falcons rank in the NFC, with Kirk Cousins? I mean, I think they're outside the top 5. I like, the 2 NFC North teams, the Packers and the Lions, better than the Niners, the Eagles. I'd probably put the Cowboys over them. Yeah, it's just. And then you got the other teams in your division too. The Buccaneers, got to give them credit. They won the division last year. They're going to still be there. Are the Saints going to, come out on fire towards the end of the year with Derek Carr playing well? We'll see. I actually watched the video on the Saints, just how, things have changed since Drew Brees and Sean Payton left. They got a lot of aging players on their team. It's just, what kind of season are they going to have? Some people, I think, expect, I know there was someone that had the Saints being one of the worst teams in the NFL, but they're a team that's just, they're mediocre. If Derek Carr plays like he did towards the end of the year, the Saints, they got a chance for this division, but we'll see. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think though about the Falcons. I know we talked about the Saints briefly, but about the Falcons, how did you feel about the Michael Penix pick? What are your thoughts on what Arthur Blank had to say? Like I said, right here, their decision to give Kirk Cousins that contract and draft Michael Penix, that's really, they got to hope that it works out, because they are not going to have a job if it doesn't. So, but I expect the Falcons to be good this year. But yeah, don't forget, tonight there's a game. Also, I know when I was going off the money line and the spread, I kind of messed up a little bit. So the spread is minus 115 for the Texans, minus 105 for the Bears. The money line right now, so the Texans opened up as plus 110. The Bears are minus 130. Now the Bears are plus 115, and the Texans are minus 135. And like I said, the current over-under is 31. So take that how you will. Make sure to tune into the game. It's on ESPN. It's on ABC, ESPN Deportes. Make sure to tune in for it. 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Looking forward to it. Football is back. It's been a long off season, like I said, but it's back. And I can't wait to watch this game tonight, even though it's not going to be the most exciting game in the world, but it's football. I'll take it. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows. And yeah, that is all the time that we have for today. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. We'll be back again tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn.